Hi, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Crafting and Crime Daily. I know there's been no shows lately. I get it, but it's about to explode. I'm telling you what, Chad Daybell trial, the jury has been selected. That starts Wednesday, tomorrow. And I will be recapping the opening statements for you either late tomorrow or Thursday. Also, I've been reviewing another case that I'm just trying to do a deep dive into so I can recap that one for you. It's one that occurred last year that I didn't recap while it was live, but I thought it was significant enough that I should, probably give it a few minutes. Anyway, today I'm going to talk about the sentencing hearing that just ended a few minutes ago in the James and Jennifer Crumbley case. Now, as you recall, James and Jennifer Crumbley are the parents of Ethan Crumbley, who on November 30th of 2021 went into the Oxford school. Well, he was already in the Oxford school. His parents failed to take him home that morning when they were alerted to a very disturbing drawing that he had made in class that looked like a shooting. They had just purchased a gun for him days before this. And this was the gun that he had in his possession that they failed to even look in his backpack to see that it was there. He goes back to class. He has lunch. After lunch, 12:51, he begins shooting. He injures several people and murders 4 people. So the sentencing starts out, both Jennifer and James Crumbley had separate trials for the negligence that they showed towards their son. And it's repeatedly said that they weren't on trial for bad parenting, but really they were. They were. So the first thing that happened this morning, even before we get to the sentencing, they were both convicted by separate juries, separate trials, separate juries, but they were sentenced together. And the judge commented, and I figured that that's why this occurred together, this is so the victims didn't have to give another victim impact statement. They've already given victim impact statements at the sentencing of Ethan Crumbley, James and Jennifer's son. He is serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole. But so that they would only have to give one impact statement for both of these defendants. So the first thing that the judge pointed out was how sick she was. She didn't sound good. She really didn't. But she said she's been on antibiotics for 5 days. She's no longer contagious. It's not like she just had a really bad case of a virus of some sort. But in any case, our favorite attorney, the one that always has, I'm sorry, she was there representing Jennifer Crumbley. And the other lady, both of these women started out as partners in a law firm, but they split up. They split their partnership so they could continue representing separately James and Jennifer Crumbley. But they were both there, and they were both spent the first hour of this hearing this morning talking about the inaccuracies in the pretrial sentencing investigation report that's issued by the Department of Corrections, or the probation department, actually. So the probation department had a representative there to make argument, and the prosecutor also made argument. The first thing they wanted corrected was the reference to drug and alcohol abuse that was in both their sentencing reports. And the judge said that she agreed that there was drug and alcohol abuse as far as James goes, which I had not heard this. But apparently he frequently drank alcohol, and at the time of this shooting was doing marijuana daily, even though it's illegal in Michigan. He was doing it daily, and the judge says, no, I agree with this sentencing investigation. We're going to leave that. But as to Jennifer, she did eliminate the drug use, saying that occasionally using marijuana is not drug abuse. So Then their next argument was that they were only convicted of one offense, not 4 offenses. Even though there were 4 murders, their offense was negligence for not foreseeing what their son was going to do, not keeping the gun locked up. There was so many things that they could have and should have and done in this case, and they didn't do. But the fact that it resulted in 4 deaths was completely on their son, and to the point where this Jennifer's attorney kept saying, he was an adult and he made an adult decision. And finally, the judge says, he was not an adult. He was a juvenile. He was charged as an adult, but he's not an adult. Anyway, it kind of irritated me too. The next thing they had a problem with was this idea that they were fleeing the country. That's a narrative that was put out to media, and that media has just run with that, and that their clients have been maligned, and the judge is like, I sat through the evidence. It is what it is. Anyway, they were fleeing. The judge said they were hunkered down. Yes, they were. They were hunkered down in this industrial building in Detroit. In fact, the judge, what did she say? She said, they brought the circus to Detroit. They surely did. And then something I also did not know was James had, during a jail phone call, threatened the prosecutor. And the prosecutor outlined what those threats were. And I'm like, ooh, he did not. And his attorney tried to make it sound like, well, he was upset and, he didn't really mean any of it. Well, the things he said were pretty vile. They were threats. There's no question that they were threats. When he gets out, ooh. Anyway, so after this first hour, all this argument, and the judge said, I sat through the trial. I'm aware of what the evidence showed. Sat through both trials. So then we get the victim impact statements that were after the break. After a lengthy break, Madison Baldwin's mother was the first person to speak. There was a lot of statements that were written, and the judge just attached to the sentencing. She had read them ahead of time. So Madison Baldwin's mother, she commented that James and Jennifer did not make parenting a priority. That was a feature of her speech. Justin Schilling's mother and father spoke, commenting that they failed in their parental responsibilities, and not only failed their children, but failed the entire community. And comment was made that the Crumbleys are arrogantly wallowing in a pool of their own self-pity. Kind of accurate. And the victims were really pissed off because during the trial of Jennifer Crumbley, she took the stand and she said she would not have changed a thing. They were very upset with the statement. And every single one of them commented that she had made this statement and how callous that was. That even today, you're not recognizing or taking responsibility for your actions or inactions. So then we had Hannah St. Juliana's sister, who very well spoken, I think it was an older sister, they were all reading statements, but very well written statement. But I found it interesting during her comments, she said something about one of the first responders that got to her sister failed to put a tourniquet on her sister. And she said that the first responders took over 10 minutes getting to her sister, over 10 minutes after they already had the shooter in custody to get to her sister, which leads me to believe that this family is also focused on civil liability of the first responders. So it sounds like they've got some other lawsuits cooking in the background here. I wonder if we'll get to see those, because that would be really interesting if they're going to start blaming first responders now for the death of their daughter. How to say Juliana's father spoke, and then Tate Mears' father spoke. He said, it's time to focus. He says, I don't want to spend a minute on the Crumbleys. I don't want to give them the satisfaction. So after that, and he didn't mention them again. But then what he did mention is it's now time. They've been convicted. It's now time to focus on the school, the Oxford School, for their role in this tragedy. I don't disagree. I do not disagree. I think the school made some tragic mistakes as well. There were so many mistakes in this thing all around. James, Jennifer, Ethan, the school, apparently the first responders now. Wow. There's enough blame for everybody. So Jennifer Crumbley made a speech, very heartfelt. She found God. So if you're looking for God, apparently he's in the jail. This is where everybody finds him. He's in jail. Yeah. He's not in my craft room. I'd have to go to jail to find him, apparently. But during her speech, she was blaming the school too. The school didn't tell me this, and the school didn't tell us that. And the school, if we'd have known this, and if they'd have told us that, we would have taken him home. They didn't tell us to take him home. She just kept making statements that were really contrary to the evidence. I sat through both trials. That was not what the evidence showed. So she is still in denial about her responsibility. We were good parents. No, you weren't. So then her attorney, now this is that same lady that's, was so scattered during the trial. She had piles and piles of papers everywhere. She was always saying she was sorry. And she starts arguing with it. She starts to make her speech. And now she and the judge are going back and forth about what the evidence showed. And yeah, it was interesting. I rarely see a judge argue with an attorney when they're making a sentencing speech, but they were like getting into it, bickering back and forth. So James and Jennifer asked for time served. They've served 23 months they've served two years, like 2.25 years, where they were in isolation 23 hours a day. Essentially solitary confinement for over 2 years. So they wanted time served. Well, the prosecution asked that the guidelines be exceeded. Now, I never understood what the guidelines actually indicated they should serve. It's a scoring system. They get scores for all these different things that were argued during hour one of this hearing. But the prosecutor said that, the devastating impact of their negligence warranted exceeding the guidelines in this case. So the judge, she made her speech. She said it's not the role of the court to make an example out of these parents, but it is the role of the court to make sure that, future people are deterred from this kind of behavior. And that opportunity knocked over and over and over again for these parents to have seen this coming. Interesting. Yeah. So she did sentence them above the guidelines. They were each sentenced to 10 to 12 years. 10 to 15 years. So it means after 10 years, they can ask for a parole hearing and get it, they may not get it. They may not get a parole. It's not automatic. You can ask for a hearing. So they've already served 858 days, both of them, which is, like I said, a little over 2 years. So I foresee that they will be out fairly soon. You know, they'll serve a few more years in prison. They've been in a jail up until now. So they'll get into a prison population and probably serve a few more years and then get out on good behavior. Because, you know, Jennifer found God. So we already know that she's done good work in prison. She helped Megan Amirowitz, a defendant in a whole other trial, write her sentencing speech. She's shown some kindnesses in court. Maybe that she didn't show her son because she was busy having sex in the Costco parking lot. Yes, I couldn't get through this show today without mentioning sex in the Costco parking lot. Yes, I'm sorry. Okay. So, for all of you parents out there, and this was mentioned by one of the parents during their impact statement, go home and hug your children. Pay attention. Ask them, are you okay? Is everything all right? Pay attention to your children. They're important. And they're not going to tell you that they're having issues. You've got to look for them. If they've got a journal, I might take a look at the journal. If they've got a diary, you might want to peek into it. Get them to a therapist. You know, it doesn't hurt. Anyway, that's it for the day. That was the sentencing. It lasted all morning, but I boiled it down to 16 minutes for you. If you want to go back and hear it, like I said, I would skip through like the first hour of it, which is the arguing or the pre-sentencing investigation. It's after that first break that they actually start the victim impact statements. And there were only like 5 or 6. And they weren't lengthy. None of the statements were lengthy. James made a statement as well, but I wasn't really moved by it. I really wasn't, you know. It's clear to me that they're just in denial. These parents, they don't think they did anything wrong. They think they were good parents. And they wouldn't have done anything differently. So anyway, there you have it. So tomorrow will be the openings of, like I said, Chad Daybell. Yes, we've all been waiting for it. You know it, you love it. Let me know down in the comments if you're looking forward to that. Would you like to have opening statements live? Would you like me to just recap them for you? Or and what do you think about today's sentencing? Fair? Reasonable? Is it going to be a deterrent? Are parents going to start paying attention to their children? Here's a hint. I'm going to get up on my soapbox before I end this show today. Do not buy them guns. Please. Just, they don't need guns. No. Books, book bags, computers, just no guns. Okay? All right. Have a great day, everybody. Take care. Bye.